Mrs. Contreras.
Here.
Mrs. Sashanek.
Here. We'll do Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll take a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Any board member statements?
I do.
Okay.
I just wanted to give a recognition to all of our schools for amazing Meet the Teacher nights. I heard from many people in our community that the Meet the Teachers were great at all of our schools. I attended Fine Arts Meet the Teacher. I loved the little slushy truck that was there. My kids loved it even more. And I also attended the new teacher breakfast we had a few weeks ago, and it was great to get to talk to all of our new teachers.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Dr. Freeman, we'll turn it over to you for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the audience. Welcome everyone tonight. Buenas tardes a todos and good evening. Welcome to the 22-23 school year. School's off to a great start, a bit more humid than we remember. Teachers, parents, and students are all buzzing with excitement. It's nice to see so many familiar faces, and certainly we're grateful for the patience of our families as things get underway, and that all of our students made it to and from school safely with no little ones getting lost, though there were a couple temporarily misplaced. We fixed that right away. We know the first few days of school mean that staff, parents, and students are learning or getting reacquainted with routines, both old and new, and during the first couple days, carefully planned systems are put to the test. And while most everything goes well, those aren't the ones people hear about. There are always refinements to be made, lessons to be learned for upcoming years, and also not unlike any other business or agency, we're short-staffed. The Registered Ride program was introduced to families at the end of the last school year and was designed to help become more efficient in providing school transportation by strategically scheduling bus routes. And while many of our families faithfully followed our directions, registered their children, a software update 5 days prior to the start of school created a conflict, unbeknownst to us, that prevented the full registration for transportation, and it was a mess. So we worked quickly with the software company to reestablish the registration link, assign staff necessary to ensure all students requesting transportation were properly routed, and I think after the weekend things went a lot more smoothly. Our communities demonstrated that they care by being kind and gracious, with only a few exceptions. We're thankful for their continued support. We look forward to continuing to partner with families because together we are meant to shine. Each school year begins well ahead of the first day of school. Teachers are busy preparing for another year, building relationships with their new students and families. They used Remind to welcome families and share important messages and alerts. We start two-way parent communication with that system, and it allows us, of course, to keep track of what's going on, make sure everyone's safe. Littleton Online Academy offered not one or two, but 3 family orientation sessions to establish expectations and get that program off to a good start and build some excitement around it. We received a lot of comments on the energy and excitement that could be felt around our schools on Meet the Teacher nights. Thank you for your comments. Teachers prepared their rooms to welcome students and families in fun and unique ways, from goodie bags to bulletin boards, and all the students and parents were greeted with warm smiles, open hearts. And all the schools had different stations to offer information to parents and answer questions. PTA reps were recruiting members, reminding parents the opportunity to get involved with the school. Food Services had information on the school lunch program. They were busy reminding parents to fill up the free and reduced lunch applications again this year. We also had our staff from transportation ready to answer questions and remind parents to register students to use the bus. At Estrella Vista STEM Academy, students and families utilized a passport for learning to time travel to their first day of school and their new homeroom classroom and special area teachers' classrooms and other stations. And at the end of the night, students entered their completed passport for learning into a drawing to win 2 highly prized Estrella Vista shirts and super cool Estrella Vista stickers. For families who were not able to attend in person due to other competing responsibilities, our campus has had options for virtual meetings, and for Littleton Online Academy, Meet the Teacher Night was 100% virtual, and that was also well attended. Over 3,200 families were counted as participating in Meet the Teacher Night this year. We call the work days leading up to the first day of school pre-service, and we had a very productive pre-service for our teachers and staff that culminated with our annual kickoff gathering of all of our staff the morning after our Meet the Teacher Night. After having virtual meetings for the last 2 years, it seemed like everybody was excited to be back in person. Our guest speaker definitely commented on that. Online and other staff who needed to be able to join virtually were able to do that. Ms. Reyes did a great job reminding staff and teachers that students will remember them forever, and not many other professions can say that. Thank you, Ms. Reyes and Mr. Nielsen, for your attendance and support. The keynote speaker, Mr. Craig Zablocki, and his message was interactive, energetic, well received. We all appreciated reminders to be brave, bold, creative, and inquisitive, much the way children are, and to model these qualities for our students would challenge everyone to remember to laugh more than 7 times a day. The first day of school at Littleton STEM Academy included free coffee, a free coffee truck to show their support for the campus from the Good News Church. At Quinton, students in the middle school were reminded in their assemblies that they were leaders and role models for the younger students. Country Place had a great opening of school with leadership lessons and PBIS routines and procedures. At the Collier Business Academy, students in grades 5th through 8th started financial literacy, a special rotation at their campus. Students are going to explore careers, plan budgets, learn about savings and investing, plus many more lifelong financial skills. Our summer feeding program ended July 28th. The count of meals served to our community in the form of breakfast or lunch was 40,107. That's over 3,000 more than last summer. We've transitioned from summer to the regular school lunch program. I'd like to remind our families that we're required by federal regulation to reset the free and reduced lunch applications. This is a big change from free meals for all students under pandemic relief. And all of the support programs for families are going through the same thing right now. School lunch applications can be submitted online through the Titan application. The link to Titan's available on the Littleton District website under the Parents tab, or by scanning the barcode available on our social media and other flyers that were distributed to families. If you prefer to submit a paper form, you can pick those up at your child's school front office or welcome center. For those needing to pay, our front offices can help with depositing money into students' meals accounts. Parents will have the option to make full electronic payments later this month when the new banking connections are authorized. We want to thank everybody again for their patience and support, for remembering children need to eat regular and nutritious meals to learn and to do their best in school. In closing, I'd like to express our appreciation to Jose Moreno, parent of one of our students, who donated $100 for uniform tops and 100 bottoms. Oh no, it's not $100. It's 100 tops and 100 bottoms, clothes for 100 kids. That estimated value is over $1,800. He said he wanted to donate to families in need and grateful for his generosity. We also want to thank friends and family members around the district who buy supplies for teachers through Donors Choose and other programs. Little STEM Academy received a donation of nearly $600 in learning resources to promote STEM learning, and we're so grateful for that, Madam President. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Freeman. All right, at this time, Ms. Vanderwater, program showcase.
We had two parts, I'm sorry, to my part.
Oh, okay, thank you, and thank you for pointing that out. So, attendance awareness proclamation, reading of attendance awareness proclamation. And I'm off here, help me find that. I'm locked out right now.
Mr. Nielsen.
Me to read it?
Yeah, please, thank you. I appreciate it.
Whereas good attendance is essential to student achievement and graduation, and we are committed to dedicating our resources and attention to reducing chronic absenteeism rates with a focus starting as early as kindergarten. Whereas improving attendance and reducing chronic absence takes commitment, collaboration, and tailored approaches to particular challenges and strengths in each community. Whereas schools and community partners can reach out more frequently to absent students to determine why they are missing school and what would help them attend more regularly. Whereas chronic absence can be significantly reduced when schools, parents, and communities work together to monitor and promote good attendance and address hurdles that keep children from participating in learning activities. Whereas this year, there continues to be a great need to have students connected and engaged and to build traditional classroom relationships, building strategies, even while participating in an online setting. Now, therefore, be it resolved that as the governing board of Littleton Elementary School District, I proclaim that our schools will stand with the nation in recognizing September as Attendance Awareness Month. We hereby commit to focusing on reducing chronic absenteeism to give all children an equitable opportunity to learn, grow, and thrive academically, emotionally, and socially, whether it be in person or in a distance learning setting.
Thank you very much. I'm back online now. So Dr. Freeman, it looks like you're going to give us a summary of events. Are you back online?
That was my comments.
Oh, that was your
We're
comment.
kind of winging it.
Okay,
but
well,
We're ready for the showcase now.
winging it is good. All right, so now I think it's your turn, Ms. Vanderwater, to do the program showcase.
Thank you, President Reyes, members of the governing board, Dr. Freeman. It is a great honor to present to you our program showcase for this evening. Tonight, Mrs. Robbie Ann Musel, Director of Curriculum and Instruction, will showcase Littleton School District's District Art Show. During the 2019-2020 school year, due to our dynamic distance learning model, we showcased to our governing board and community district artwork from our 7 schools as a slideshow of artwork. For the 2020-2021 school year, we were not able to host our district art show at the Avondale Library due to the COVID metrics, but we were able to showcase artwork on our school campuses and select a sampling of exemplary student creativity. This year, we are planning, if metrics allow, to host our district art show at one of our incredible community partners and have an in-person display of artwork representing all 8 schools. Involvement in the arts is associated with gains in math, reading, cognitive ability, creative thinking, and verbal skills. Arts learning can also improve motivation, concentration, confidence, and teamwork. Littleton School District maintains a strong arts program in all 8 of our schools, kindergarten through 8th grade, and we have exceptional art teachers who assist students in expressing themselves through visual arts media. Please help me in welcoming Ms. Musel, who will celebrate and recognize our students and arts staff.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Freeman, executive team, thank you for giving me the opportunity to showcase our Littleton students and their amazing talents. As Ms. Vanderwater said, during the last year, 21-22 school year, we were unable to hold a district-based art show, so we did school-based art shows. And student art was displayed for our staff, our community, and our students to go in and view all the talented work of our students. We also had a team of Littleton staff members that visited each of those art shows and one virtually and selected a variety of art pieces to purchase. That student art will be framed and displayed throughout our district office. This wouldn't have been possible without our wonderful art teachers, and so I'd like to take time to just recognize each one of them. From Country Place Leadership Academy, we had Ms. Walters. Estrella Vista STEM Academy for Engineering was Ms. Wheelahan. Fine Arts Academy, Ms. Walla. Littleton STEM Academy for Computer Sciences is Ms. Keener. Quinton STEM Academy for Health Science is Ms. Garcia. And Trace Rio Service Academy, Ms. Smith. So now I'll take you through the pieces that were requested for purchase. These students will receive a $50 check from our district as well as a certificate. First, we have Kayleen, 5th grade student from Fine Arts Academy. Jaylee Enright, a 2nd grade student from Estrella Vista STEM Academy for Engineering. Kevin Fierro, a 5th grade student from Estrella Vista STEM Academy for Engineering. Sarah Martine Olmedo, a 7th grade student from Estrella Vista STEM Academy for Engineering. And you can see each piece is unique. Some used watercolors, some used oils, there were different medias used. Michelle Vega is a kindergarten student from Fine Arts Academy who did a self-portrait. That one's one of my favorites. Ella Perkins, 5th grade student, something we don't see very often in Arizona, right? Snow, especially in the Phoenix area, from Fine Arts Academy. Mayuki Adams, a 6th grade student at Fine Arts Academy. Adrian Quinones, 7th grade student from Fine Arts Academy. Very abstract art there. Liliana Ochoa, 8th grade from Fine Arts Academy. It's a candy wrapper. Araceli Rodriguez is a 1st grade student. And this one actually, you can't, the picture doesn't do it justice. The figures that are on there are actually raised, made out of some type of clay. So it's actually like a 3D piece of art. Jason Benitz, a 3rd grade student at Quinton STEM Academy for Health Sciences. Amaya McPhee, an 8th grade student at Quinton STEM Academy for Health Science, a self-portrait. And I'd be happy to answer any questions or take any comments at this time.
No, I'd just say on behalf of the board, we want to thank all of the art teachers. They play a critical role in what they do, so we appreciate them. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Musil.
So at this time, do we have any call to the public? Thank you. So we'll move on to item 9, consent agenda. Is there anything to be pulled from the consent agenda before we make a motion? Hearing nothing to be pulled, I'll make a motion to approve or disapprove item 9, which is the consent agenda.
I'll second.
I made the motion. There was a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion will pass. Moving on to item 10, information only. Dr. Freeman, the mitigation plan refinement.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. We had started the year with a great deal of concern about high spread in Maricopa County. Right now, Maricopa County's been downgraded to low spread. Last week, I think in my update, I said we were at medium spread. So our level of concern isn't as great. But there were a couple things under high spread that we needed to confront early on in the year. A lot of it for planning. One of them is in sports. And so the recommendation we made is to follow the recommendation and guidelines of the AIA. So they are dealing with the same Maricopa County conditions here. And what we thought is we were trying to kind of fill in that square with what we thought was best and trying to figure out how we would make that work. Our recommendation to the board is to let AIA and their experts who are working with student athletes all the time guide us on how we're going to work with our middle school student athletes. And so we made that change. And then the other thing that we had been concerned about is other large group gatherings. We're planning right now, for instance, to release information to families on the 6th grade field trip. So we still have some common areas and other activities where we wanted to make just some little tweaks to the high spread area. And like I said, we're relieved right now that the county's gone to the low spread area. But we are learning as we go through this plan and actually try to implement what's written in those boxes where we're finding a little bit of issue in implementation. The other thing that we had been concerned about is we have some places where we have some fairly creative scheduling to help facilitate student interests in the education business. We call it popcorning. Popcorning means that a classroom group, instead of staying together as a group or even as a resource group, you might have the same group of 30 kids going 5 different directions. What that means, if you have to do contract tracing for something communicable, now that you've sent everybody 5 different directions and they've seen 5 different groups of people, you're essentially going through a pretty elaborate contract tracing chain. So what we thought the best recommendation for that would be, we're right now not under obligation by the county health department for the school to do contract tracing. As soon as we are, we would quit doing popcorning. So based on what the county health department is telling the school its obligation is, would be how we would respond to the structure in the school. If they come back and say, for whatever reason, maybe you're an outbreak school or something, you have to start doing or helping with contract tracing, then that practice would stop. And it essentially is going to be kind of start and stop based on direction from the county health department, instead of us trying to figure out how much anything is being passed around the school. So once again, trying to defer to outside authorities that have more practice, information, and expertise in this in the school district. Those are really the only 2 changes, and they're fairly small.
Is there questions on that mitigation information? No? Hearing none, so we'll turn it over to Mr. French to talk about developer impact agreements.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the governing board, Dr. Freeman, and Littleton community. Administration's bringing this item back to the governing board this evening. I think we've talked about it a couple of times over the last couple of months. I think the last time being Dr. Freeman explaining the impact that the permitting fees for the new Lake and Prep Academy had cost the district, and potentially moving that into the donation agreements that we have with developers moving forward. Jim, if you scroll down just a tad, we have that first table there is the agreement that we currently have, where you can see 2,100 square feet or more. It's $1,000 donation going all the way down to $200 for anything less than 550 square feet. The district's intention on that was to have maybe some of these smaller units, being some of the apartment complexes and things that are going into the district that aren't going to be as large as some of the larger homes that are going in, to have a differentiation between what they're going to be paying the developers. What we have come to find out is we've talked to a couple of developers in the area, and they would like us to see, an owner occupied donation agreement as well as a managed a dwelling agreement. So what we've done is we've separated the 2 out. The second chart that you have there is the proposed increase that we're asking the board to approve this evening. $130 was the increase that we had seen an impact from the Lake and Prep permitting fees. So what the administration would like to do is increase the top of that range for the 2,100 square feet or more by $130 to make it $1,130. And then what we did is for each row down, we decreased that increase by $10. The third piece there is that proposed managed dwellings. You'll see a lot of these are the apartments or some of those smaller developments that you're seeing going in. I wouldn't call them necessarily townhouses, but you know, they're going to be smaller developments. We've had a couple of the developers come in and tell us, you know, they're really targeting young professionals, not so much family dynamics, but they still want to be good partners to the district. So what we did was we took this agreement and we modeled it off of a Dysart Unified School District that they already had an arrangement with developers to do developments like this. We modeled it off of their agreement, and what we're proposing is $130 per unit, and then $130 for each additional bedroom. These units typically would be 1, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms sometimes. So it is, we have seen some agreement from developers that this would be acceptable to them moving forward. We did attach the revised donation agreement to the item. You'll see that it tracks some of the changes that we've talked with our legal counsel over. I think Jim is sliding it down for us. So everything that's been changed is marked in blue. We do have a definition of managed dwelling. I think we had to go back a couple of times to make sure that we were understanding what managed dwelling was and how we can properly define it to make sure that we can determine which table that a developer would be working off of. The other items that we had on here were, we have had instances where developers would come and have donations that are in lieu of cash, i.e. maybe some infrastructure development that they would be able to provide to the district. We wanted to have the superintendent to have authority to be able to accept those, as well as if the developer wanted to provide an aggregate donation amount, so one lump sum, that if it was advantageous to the district, that the superintendent was able to accept those as well. At this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board has.
Questions? Yes.
Ryan, I've just got one quick one because I've toured one of the apartment complexes today. And just to get it straight in my mind, the first chart we've got here is for houses independently owned dwellings or whatever they might be, ranging from 500 square feet up to more than 2,100. So where we were there earlier today is the one across the street from the sports center up there. There's 350 units in there, but they range in size from 1 bedroom to 2 bedroom and a 3 bedroom. So in that particular site, there'd be 350 rooftops, if you can say that, and on each rooftop, depending on whether it's 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, or 3 bedroom, would be the managed one. Is that how?
Yes, Madam President, Mr. Nielsen, that's correct. So when the district works with developers, when they come and have a form for us to fill out, the adequate school facilities form, we bring this to them and essentially negotiate the donation to the district in that exact situation. So we would have a site plan for them. It would break down how many 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom apartments they have, and that's where we basically come up with this dollar amount and work from there.
Okay.
Dr. Freeman?
Madam President, members of the board, one of the things we see is a big variety in housing models, and so some of these can also be efficiency studios. So there's a great deal of variation, but one of the big differences that Mr. French and the attorney and I discussed is that for these managed properties, they're not going to be sold off as individual units to individual buyers. So there's not a time when they're separately platted and then the impact fee can go with the plat. So the way we've done this with this kind of 2-step model is that when they bring the the managed dwelling proposal to Mr. French, he can sit down and look at all the different kinds of units, add up what the different configurations are, understanding that different builders are going to build different things in different ways, and then essentially he will, on the district's behalf, enter into a kind of negotiation on the type of units and the number using this conversion chart, because at that time, there's only one impact fee being paid by the managed company for the whole thing. So it's not like when you do 700 homes where you might just bring in $1,000 at a time as the homes are sold, which would add up to a lot. But this is a single project, single plat, and so we think it's important to configure it in a way that makes sense both to us and because there's no other way to layer in fees.
So one other question here. So, where was I going with this one? This is an action item, so when would this go into effect? Only because I know that there's a couple other apartment complexes that are gonna be started or have started in that same area over there, so
Yep.
would
Madam President, Mr. Nielsen, I think the item here is asking it to go in effect upon approval. We are in negotiation currently with a development that I have told them, they're aware that we're coming to the board this evening. They've asked if we can hold to the owner dwelling piece because they're actually a larger development that's going to be doing a bunch of owner development, but they're going to have one piece that's going to be this managed development. And so we are working with them currently, and I have told them that that I would hold true to, in the process of negotiation to those owner dwelling prices. One thing that I failed to mention is that we have contacted our demographer on how they calculate kids per dwelling. And so we got that information too late for the board meeting, but we are going to be reviewing that information and make sure it makes sense with our donation agreement. So this may be brought back to the board in the future to revise based on the information that we received from the demographer as well.
Madam President, members of the board, what we've done each time in the past when we change this, if someone had already contacted the district and we're in the process of working out an agreement with us, we've really been open to whether they want to use the newer or old agreement because essentially the meeting straddled the work. Anybody who's new and comes to us tomorrow, assuming the board would approve this change, would be on the new agreement. The people who came to us beforehand, then what we do is work with them to see, what will work best. And just out of a sense of fair play, we think that that's both practical and the right thing to do.
Other questions? I'm just going to go back and make sure I understand it. Mr. Nelson did a good job. And so the apartments that are currently just built on Avondale across from ASC, right? Those large ones. So you get the plot to know how many apartments are in there? Or where are you gathering your information? You get it after the plot's that's been approved to be built, or when are you getting it?
So Madam President, the way that that I understand it is in order to get the permit from the city requires the developer to file an adequate school facilities form, and that comes to the school district. We fill out whether we have adequate facilities or we do not, and that goes back to the developer, at which point they come back to us. We go through the donation agreement, come to an agreement, and fill out the facilities form. They can go back to the city and get their permits. So sometimes I think Avondale's been very good at having developers come to the school district. In other cities, Phoenix, we're not as lucky as we are with Avondale. Sometimes they'll approve that permit prior to having them talk to the district. So if it's already built and it's already been approved, I'm not sure that we're going to have much say with those units. But this would be for anybody looking to get a permit.
That was my question. How would you be able to wrangle it to be able to collect your fee? And then, do you know, did our attorneys, you said our attorneys reviewed the impact agreement. Was there a concern regarding, when you said you work with them and negotiate with them, was there a concern with negotiating, treating one developer differently than a different developer? Because, like you said, this one had owned homes and the other one was going to have one managed dwelling. Would we not have to do that for any property with that same kind of outline, or not necessarily?
Madam President, I think what we wanted to do is provide some flexibility. I do know that some of these developers are on short timelines and would like to have the forms back to the city so they can get permits pulled. If they wanted to negotiate any of these things, there was going to be a time constraint on us bringing it back to the board on a monthly basis and getting it approved by you prior to Dr. Freeman being able to sign. So we wanted to put in there that we had some negotiation room as long as it was in the best interest of the district to do that.
Yeah, I don't have a concern with the negotiation. I just don't want us to get into a position where you have one developer saying we treated another developer, because you could see that coming, right? Differently because we liked A developer versus B developer. So as long as you're conscientious of that and aware of it, that was my only concern.
The managed dwelling caveat is brand new, so
Right,
we
right.
can't go backwards.
No, I
but
understand.
I think we have a pretty clear guideline for how to implement it, and of course, we've been in contact with Dysart. I think some of the board members may be familiar with the head of finance there, Mr. Hicks. So we're, basing a little bit off of a bigger district's experience to.
Yeah, no, nothing
help
wrong with
us.
that, right?
So now I'm curious about the site that you visited, Mr. Nielsen. Whose project is that?
Whatever the name of it is, hang here.
But that's already been,
Avari.
yeah.
Avari? Yeah.
But we're not going to collect fees from them, right? Because the permits, or should I not ask that? Because you're looking at me like that's a strange question.
No, I don't think we got any impact fees from them for
No,
that
we
project.
didn't. That was what triggered me to go. How do you know when you're getting, I mean, that's right there in your
I think
backyard.
because I think the city has an interest in the project.
Yeah, but see, that's exactly what I'm saying. Would that, how do you manage to make it fair, right?
Well, in this case, I don't think we got a adequate schools facilities form on that project.
Well,
So we weren't in control of that.
shame on Avondale. I'll just say that publicly. But, right? I mean, because if we don't get it, we can't negotiate.
I think, yeah, sometimes maybe they can impact us, but we can't impact them.
Mr. Nelson will ask you to take note of that. Thank you. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that explanation. So at this point,
Drop that in there.
yeah, just throw that right out there. At this point, this is a motion, so I'll take a motion on this action, please.
I'll go ahead
Okay.
and make a motion that we approve the revised rooftop impact agreement effective upon approval.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. At this point, we'll have a roll call to approve or disapprove the impact agreement. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, motion will carry. Thank you. And then at this point, we're going to talk about the ASBA board priorities. So, let me get there.
Probably we can pull up the attachments, those would be helpful.
Yes,
Ian.
the draft, okay. So at this point, we're going to discuss and possibly take action to determine if we want to approve the ASBA 2023 proposed political agenda. So let's look at the agenda and see if there's questions, things we oppose.
Madam President, just to help the board, you remember we had a discussion about our top 5 things, and those were submitted, and then maybe one of you is more familiar with the internal workings of the association. They collect all that and put it into a document that turns into this proposal, so I don't know if any of the edits in there you'll recognize as your contributions, but I think it is an aggregate of the work of all 200
It does appear to
boards.
be. I don't know that the wording is exactly the same, but you can see, the basic life needs of children. While we may have not said it like that, the goal was always to make children succeed.
Right.
Is there, concerns or questions regarding the core beliefs put forth by the ASBA? Hearing none, and then let's look at the proposed draft agenda. There was one, we had full-day kindergarten, that was fine, we talked about that. Advocate to preserve, the Proposition 301. I don't remember index district additional funding for inflation, but that makes sense in the world we live in.
The current budget year fiscal 23 did have an increase to DAA for the first time in over 30 years.
A long time.
And I think that's the interest of the K-12 is that you shouldn't have to wait 30 years to adjust that every time.
That's good, I like that. Any concerns regarding the draft political agenda proposed for 2023? Anything you want to see, don't want to see? It's pretty much what we talked about when we went through it, just a little more, right? Because other school districts participate. Maybe language has changed, but the concepts are all there. So hearing none at this point, then we'll take a motion to approve or disapprove the items.
I move that the governing board approve the school board's, Arizona School Boards Association draft 2023 political agenda.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion will pass. Moving on to the ASBA 2022 Delegate Assembly and County Meeting. This is where we consider a representative. I know, Amy, you've done it for a couple years, correct?
I have. I've enjoyed myself. I am willing to do it again this year, but I'm also willing to let someone else have the joy.
No, well, I appreciate you stepping up, and I can appreciate that comment totally. But you do a good job, so when you do a good job, sometimes that, I don't know if that's considered punishment or pleasure. Is there anyone else that would like to represent Littleton District at the ASBA delegate? What date is it?
There's a calendar in the back.
Oh, so you want me to read? Okay, yeah, September 10th at the Scottsdale, September.
Usually a Saturday, and it takes, usually we're done by 12. 1 year we were done at 3. It kind of just varies depending on how much we debate amongst ourselves.
And you are correct, it is a Saturday.
Yeah, it's in yours. You guys should have this.
Mr. Nelson, any desire to go? Don't feel pressured, I'm just asking.
I would like to go, that's the last week of the treatment that you and I are talking
Oh,
about.
no
so-
problem, you don't, gotcha?
I can do it, if somebody can be a backup just in case.
Okay, it would be a good experience.
I can be a backup. if
I
you
think
want.
actually they both can go, but only one can vote.
Right, you both can go and stand together, but one has to be the voter.
One has to stand in the
Yeah,
voter section, and then the other one can stand in the back.
yeah,
Let's,
okay.
yeah, let's let them go and then they can arm wrestle for voting or something.
I like that recommendation. So I'll ask for a motion.
I move that we authorize Ms. Contreras to act as the board's delegate and myself to act as the alternate at the 2022 ASBA Delegate Assembly to represent the views of the board.
I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I heard none. Motion passes. Thank you both
Thank you.
for going.
You have to vote on that, do they?
Doing the county.
Are we doing
I-
the county one?
I don't know that you have to vote on that, but
Well-
it is important that somebody gets the material.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll go to the county meetings as well, but I didn't know we did discuss that. That's why I didn't put it in my motion.
You guys have this calendar in your material, right? The one that has all the events?
That's,
I don't have it in my packet sitting here on this desk.
No, in your attachments. Is
Oh.
it part of your attachments?
No, let me see if it's part of my attachments, and if I read it, does say calendar of events.
Here you go.
Yeah.
So we can get you paper ones. If not, then you have access to that. for
Yeah.
All the,
It's October 17th for Maricopa County.
Usually there's more than one
Yep, it
Maricopa
does look like
County.
Maricopa County meeting with county director election, Monday, the 17th of October. Is that,
That's the only one that's listed.
it's the only one I see for Maricopa County?
They don't give a time for it.
Not-
In the past, it's been like
Right after work.
right after work, so
Yeah.
it's like 5, 6 o'clock.
All right, so we do have that, where we need her to vote or not. We're clear on who's going, so thank you both. And with that, looks like we're going to have a motion for adjournment.
Nope, one last thing.
What is that?
It's the
Oh,
discussion
thank
of
you.
the policy based on
Oh, the first reading of,
statute of referrals.
yeah. So we have one more item. Thank you, Dr. Freeman. Ms. Vanderwater is going to do the first reading of policy JLDAB.
Thank you, President Reyes, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Freeman. This agenda item is a discussion and first reading of recommended policy change to policy JLDAB, referrals to other agencies. JLDAB is new to Arizona School Board Association's manual and derives from legislation passed in 2020, ARS 36-3436, which created a fund that provides uninsured and underinsured children access to behavioral health services when they receive the information of providers from an educational institution. To provide this information, legislation requires school districts to include this policy. The policy provides a mechanism for school districts to provide families access to information listing community-based behavioral health providers and to possibly have those services paid for by the Children's Behavioral Health Services Fund or Arizona Health Care Cost Containment System. JLDAB is a policy that enables the statute to work as it is intended. With the addition of this policy, the superintendent can elect to provide information to families, a list of participating providers throughout the state to students who may need these services. Traditionally, we have provided information to our families and community when there is a need or they ask for a list of providers for behavioral health services. We are currently working on updating our list of providers to include Arizona Health Care Cost Containment System providers and Hazel Health, a current telehealth partner of the district, to be in compliance with this policy if approved this evening by the governing board. At this time, and can answer any questions that you might have.
Is there questions? Mr. Nielsen?
I've just got one. Ms. Vanderwater, this is all red. So this means it's a new policy. What has existed in the past? What have we had to do in the past and what promoted this? Is it now pulling it out? Why an individual one here and what's happened? And it's just history for my benefit.
Absolutely, thank you, Member Nielsen, President Reyes. Currently, we have a list of providers that our social workers or school leaders, when a family might ask for resources, we do have available on our website, or we do provide to them. This policy comes out of Jake's Law from the state statute 36-3436, which has a pot of money for uninsured and underinsured children. And that's why the policy would be added, and it comes from ASBA's manual.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Dr. Freeman?
Madam President, members of the board, as we read through this, our intention is to continue our current practice. So we already work with families and generally find either they have access or they can go on the exchange or they have other kinds of insurance. So our social workers have been providing that information, but what we aren't doing is referring any particular family to any particular service. So we'll continue to provide. Now, as far as accessing additional monies, we're kind of staying out of that because right now, between all of those things available to families, we've been able to provide that information and get people connected to support. So we're not adding any more layers of bureaucracy or anything to our work. We're adopting the policy to be consistent with the law, but we're not connecting the school district to any particular agency.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Hearing none, I'll take I'll make a motion to adjourn. I have a motion to adjourn.
No, she wants to stay here a little bit.
I was thinking we had to move the agenda
Yeah, you were helping.
I appreciate that. Sometimes I need a lot of that.
I'll make
But
a motion.
thank
that
you.
we move for adjournment.
I will second.
Okay, we are now adjourned at 6:50 PM. We have 3 or 4 that's making motions.